Joined now, as we are on Tuesdays, by Patrick Johnston of the Province and Post Media, who, well, buddy, 5 games to go. Commendations on your endurance, your stamina.
Yes, exactly.
And everything you've suffered on the Canucks beat this year.
Are you happy to know that you're at game 77?
Oh my God. It's I remember thinking at game 40, how the hell are we going to do 42 more games of this? And it certainly has had its twists and turns. And I guess the question is, do we have any better sense of where things are going than we ever have over the past, 10 years? I mean, as I said, Monday was the 10th year anniversary of my contract sucks. And there just feels like so many things that have happened in the last 10 years. And it's just nothing's the same and everything's the same and nothing's new and everything's new. So I'm amazed we've gotten this far, but I'm feeling all right. You know, the sun came out, so on and so on.
Have you ever covered a proper playoff game with this team?
No.
I did the bubble from remote, and that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the playoffs feel like in this city?
I mean, I did, because the one thing I did do was in 2015. This was roughly around the time, I don't know how long they hadn't had a sports department, but CBC basically had me in to do the sort of early dinner newscast as like the sports analyst, as a guy that was nearby. And there was certainly buzz then. Both covering it and I wasn't actually in the arena, but paying attention and the excitement of it all. And that, of course, that year being a new year, a new regime, none of us sure what things were going to be like, but certainly they were back in the playoffs where we, I think people in Vancouver felt they always belonged. So it's strange to think that that's really the last time we've done that here. But people were into that. It was exciting. And then Willie couldn't manage his team and couldn't figure out what they were doing, and they got out coached and knocked out of the playoffs, and that's that. And it's in many ways, if you think back to that, it's kind of fitting that was the last time this team was played home games in the playoffs. And things in the end, it was all mirage, and it's been a long time. I mean, I think people, if they do hopefully get back in the playoffs next year, people will certainly be thrilled. But I think it's a fair question to know how people will, whether their routines will be the same. I think that's a good question.
We've referenced this before. We remember talking to Howard Berger during the Leafs major drought about how old people would be that remembered playoff victories. For just playoffs, attendance. A child born right after that Flames series in 2015 is like a fully functioning person at this point, able to cut their own food.
Grade 2, grade 3.
A pretty good player, could be a pretty good hockey player in their own right now. They've seen some things like that. That's an actual human there at age 8.
Think of some of the guys covering the team, like Harmon and Quads were like in grade 8, I think, grade 9. Like, I mean, they are young men, but there's two guys that certainly their formative years were thrilling. I mean, I remember years ago reading there were some studies done that basically the teams that you follow that win when you're like 11, 12, 13 are your teams for life. And there seems to be some evidence to back that up. But certainly, you can understand why there's a lot of kids coming up now who maybe cheer for other teams, who cheer for, whatever team's winning, whatever team's exciting, because certainly they haven't been given a whole lot to look at since this team last played a home game.
Well, I'll do you even one better. I mean, imagine if you can remember a series victory at Rogers Arena, you're old enough that you've probably experimented with drugs and alcohol and maybe even had your first kiss.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
The Sharks. Yeah, beating the Sharks. Stanchion, holy smokes. That's the last playoff series win. I wasn't really even writing yet, that's how long it's been. It's crazy. I was still a teacher. Like a whole other life.
Yeah. The Kraken are here tonight. They are the closest geographic team to Vancouver. We're asking on our Bodog poll question today, do the Canucks currently have a rival, PJ?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, you think of a rival, spirited games. I mean, obviously, brawls and fights don't happen like they used to, but, games where guys are looking to put each other through the glass or, the goals mean a little extra. No, there's no one like that right now. I don't think so. That's stuff that builds up over, especially now when you only play your divisional opponents 3 or 4 times. And I'm not, by the way, arguing for more divisional games.
For more, no.
Just to be clear. But, when you only face each other a couple times a season, you got to be good for one. The other team has to care about you, has to respect you. And, no, there's no one out there like right now who looks at the Vancouver Canucks and says, "Oh man, that's going to be a tough one." I hope we win.
Everybody's pointing to Seattle being, the one in the on deck circle, but you sort of have to be at the same developmental arc as the team. Within, I wonder if it's going to be LA in the end, because LA is a younger team trying to rebuild. I mean, are they going to be more side by side with LA over the next 5 years than they are with the Kraken, who I don't even know how to describe what the heck the Kraken are.
They're a hardworking team that I think has come together very well, and they are in many ways the flip side of what we wonder about the Canucks next year. Like, can the Kraken do this again? Prove it. You've done it once, but let's see you do it again. And if they're in they are a playoff battling team. That is the thing about having a 32 team league, right? Like, half your teams don't make it, and that means the playoffs really are that much more special. Like, they're that much more of a challenge to achieve. And if you are fighting for a playoff spot, like the Canucks certainly hope to be with the Kraken, with the Kings. With any of those teams, any teams that you're going to be up against, and you're jockeying for position, that means a little bit extra. And certainly, obviously, you need some drama in the game itself, and what have you. So yeah, I think those are both perfectly fine candidates. The Kings, we'll see how they trend. They're certainly trending towards being a division champion type team. I'm not sure the Kraken are going to be that, and I'm not sure the Canucks are going to be that. They certainly have their top end talent, but it's all about, as we know, what you do to fill out the rest of the roster and whether you can line it all up and you can kill penalties. And that kind of thing.
You know what these teams have in common? Shooting percentage.
Yes.
Seattle is second in the league. You're asking, why are the Kraken a playoff team? Because the goaltending hasn't been great, and they're not really exceptional down the middle or have that horse defenseman, although Vince Dunn is doing a very good impersonation of it. They're shooting 11.5% as a team. It is second in the league behind the Edmonton Oilers, who lead this category for reasons that are pretty obvious. Here's the thing, though. If you just want to say, oh, Seattle's lucky and they're going to take a step back, Vancouver's shooting 11.2%. They're fourth in the league. So fourth in the league and mathematically eliminated with 6 games left, 2 weeks of the regular season. Yeah. So there is a cautionary tale there, I think, for both sides.
Yeah, partly it's that things have shifted. Obviously, in the end, luck still matters a large amount, and scoring goals has an element of luck to it. We've known this for a long time. Some teams are going to be better shooting than other teams, and certainly the group of forwards, at least the top end, and obviously Quinn Hughes, but this team is assembled, are a good offensive group. And in general, goals are up, and so on and so on. So shooting percentages are always going to be higher than they have been historically. But yeah, we'll see. The thing with the Canucks is, in the end, this run in the second half has been, they played a little bit better defensively, but they finally got some goaltending, and they finally started killing some penalties, and they've kind of kept scoring. The scoring didn't fall off. Obviously people were waiting to see Andrei Kuzmenko's insane shooting percentage fall off, and he's the obvious one to watch to see what happens next year. At the same time, so many, as I think I've said here before, so many of his goals have come from in tight. He goes to the right spots, and he's really good at tipping pucks, and the Canucks have proven to be really good at that this year. That to me is the thing. Like I've said before, can they continue with that? Can they continue to sort of dominate this one particular skill that is a bit unique, and is tipping pucks a thing that can be repeated? We'll see. But yeah, you're right. Like the Canucks in the end, like part of the story. Imagine if they hadn't scored, right? Like if they hadn't scored at this rate, how much further down the list they would be. Obviously tangibly in just this run that they've been on, that's pushed them further and further away from Connor Bedard, likely, but also just on the season itself.
Jack Rathbone is under contract for next season. If you're a betting man, is he actually still a member of the Canucks organization next season?
I have a hard time seeing it. That said, he is on a one-way, and teams are often reluctant to park guys in the minors. You see these flashes, you see these glimpses. He's a guy that wants. He's obviously a very smart young man, the guy who wants it. When I talked to him on Friday night, and I wrote a bit about this on the weekend. The last time we had seen each other, he was in Las Vegas, and things sucked. Like he was having he hadn't played in 3 weeks. And then he went to down to Abbotsford. I think was a bit lost for a while. Then he got hurt. They had Christian Wolanin as the number one sort of power play guy. Rathbone had been that guy. He had to find a new role. And he said himself, he had to go back and essentially rediscover almost how to play defense and be a more dependable player. But you can still see those issues, even in this short cameo he's had. There's moments. I was thinking about the game on Friday night. There was a moment when he got the puck in the corner, and it was under a bit of pressure. But you look, you go skate, just move your feet, like you can get it out, like you have the talent. And instead, he pushed it back around behind the boards or behind the net to Kyle Burrows. Kyle Burrows ended up having a kind of rim in it. It wasn't, it didn't go for an icing, but it gave up possession, and it was just plays like that if he's ever gonna stick in the NHL, he has to figure out how to get his feet moving and make that to a positive as opposed to just being crushed by pressure. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many more Vancouver Canucks games he's going to have. I think realistically, you look at Hirose, you look at some of the other moves this team's trying to make. Priorities they've already set by re-signing Brisebois and Wolanin. He's going to be well down the list, and you're not looking to pay a number 3 guy in Abbotsford an NHL salary, but at the same time, who's going to be trading for such a guy? So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not, like I said, I'm not convinced we'll see him in the NHL with the Canucks, that's for sure.
Well, and then there's talk on his plaudits for the Vegas defense is so big, exactly. And you wonder about Hirose, Rathbone, any of them really on the left side with Hughes already playing in that number 1 hole on the left side as a smaller guy.
It's funny, you look at Rathbone and he's bigger than people give him credit for, right? Like but he's not a towering giant. We know NHL coaches love towering giants. And, it was thing that stood out to me when I talked to him on Friday was just thinking, wow, obviously he played a full run of college hockey, and collegians always end up being, gym rats. And he's got a powerful, frame to him. But he's not, in the end, that's to sort of survive the hits. But he's not. We haven't seen him really ever impose. And I'm not saying he has to go crush anybody. He has to turn into the next second coming of Luke Shen. But we've certainly never seen himself sort of impose himself physically in any shift. He's a guy that his game is to skate and move. But you just need to see another level to his game that we haven't seen to date.
We asked this yesterday and got huge response. Should the Canucks offer the captaincy to Quinn Hughes?
I mean, I think I put his name forward a while back, and certainly we've seen the way he talked about Pride Night last week, for instance. Here's a guy who kind of gets it, and I think certainly of all the kind of options is clearly the most even keeled. I mean, Petey's pretty even keeled, but at the same time, not a huge fan of doing media. He does it because it's part of the job, but. Quinn is certainly a guy that is very approachable and happy to talk kind of the game. And not that Elias isn't either, but one lingers more than the other. Not that Quinn lingers a ton. The guy who lingers the most, if you're looking for the most lingering player, it's Jack Studnicka. He is constantly sitting in his stall thinking about whatever. I think there is certainly a very strong case for that to happen. I don't know. People wonder, well, surely Petey wants that to stay, but I don't know. I think he's certainly aware, and he's seen, the sort of public face demands that Bo Horvat had to live up to, and did impressively well. I'm not sure that's something that really he would want to do anyway. So yeah, I mean, Quinn Hughes to me makes sense. I mean, Miller, I think, has an instinct on it, but I think that also in terms of the sort of balance of the room, I think that would probably be the wrong choice. He's so, as we know, a very boisterous personality, and those guys aren't necessarily ever the guy you want as your captain.
And of course, they were a fair ways down the road of trading him. At the deadline. There's that too, exactly. Including Frank Saravelli saying there was 2 first-round picks and the Canucks were finding a home for Jason Zucker. That was
the thing I find about that. Was, I mean, I certainly had it because I talked about it a bit. Like, there was definitely stuff going on around Besser, and I find myself wondering if the two things overlapped. I mean, perhaps there was someone in Pittsburgh who said, "Whoa, this is crazy," but I really suspect there was an overlap overall in a rather complicated transaction. I think if the Canucks found themselves saying, "Oh, we're getting 2 first-round picks for JT Miller," I have a hard time given everything they've been saying, and this partly goes to sort of why I kind of still trying to figure out what happened there because and with the Roenick deal, as I've said before, I always thought there was something missing because given just how they've been behaving around wanting to have another top-end pick, even if they weren't saying they're rebuilding, retooling, they thought they could get younger and then also add some draft capital. And then to trade away draft capital without adding anything else, in the end, I think, like I said, that just makes me think that there was something else happening there. And so the Pittsburgh stuff does line up for me. Why it didn't happen exactly is a mystery I think we're all going to try to solve.
Marvelous stuff. We'll let you get about your day, Patrick. Thank you for this, and we'll catch up on Tuesday.
Guys, take care.